Police say the victim, a hip-hop musician named Mo3, was approached by the killer on I-35.
Cheryl, tonight, friends say it was a Chicago rapper who was gunned down here on one of Chicago's ritziest streets. Friends say one of those bullets killed the polarizing Chicago rapper known as FBG Duck.
9 times out of 10, if you hear that a rapper is dead, it's because they were wiped out in the most brutal, senseless way imaginable. Some were seconds from blowing up, others never got their shot. Gunfire, overdoses, setups. 1 minute they're here, the next, gone too soon. Let's hit it off with Scott LaRock. Scott Monroe Sterling, aka Scott LaRock, became the first major rapper killed in hip-hop history, setting the stage for how dangerous the game would become. He linked up with KRS-One in the mid-80s, forming Boogie Down Productions, BDP. In 1987, they dropped Criminal Minded, one of hip-hop's most legendary albums. Scott was the business mind, the leader, the one who kept everything in check. He wasn't just about music, he was about change. August 27th, 1987. Scott was trying to help a friend squash some beef in the Bronx. When he pulled up to the projects, a sniper from the rooftop opened fire. One bullet hit his head, and they rushed him to Lincoln Hospital. But he later died that night at just 25 years old. The shooter, never convicted. The case went cold, but the impact, it changed hip-hop forever. Scott LaRock could have built an empire. Instead, he became hip-hop's first major loss, proving that the game ain't never been safe. Big L. Lamont Coleman, aka Big L, was different. Harlem born, true New York hip-hop battle-tested from the start. By 1992, he was rocking with Lord Finesse and DITC. And in 1995, he dropped Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. Tracks like Put It On and Ebonics show he was top tier with the pen. He had the cosigns from Jay-Z, Nas, and Fat Joe. And by 1999, he was starting his own label, Flamboyant Entertainment. He was about to sign with Rockefeller, but before that could even happen, his past caught up with him. February 15th, 1999. Big L was on the West 139th Street in Harlem, his old stomping grounds. Out of nowhere, a masked shooter ran up and let off 9 shots, all to the head and chest. It was a straight up execution. He was pronounced dead on the scene at 24 years old. The police suspected his childhood friend, Gerard Woodley, but the case went cold. Woodley got arrested, but was released due to the lack of evidence. Big L was right on the edge of superstardom. If he had signed with Rockefeller, he could have been one of the greatest ever. Instead, his name remains a what-if legend in hip-hop. FBG Duck. Carlton Weekly, aka FBG Duck, came straight out of Chicago's South Side, repping STL, EBT, and the Flyboy Gang, FBG. His name rang bells not just for his music, but for the street wars between him and O Block. He was known for raw, disrespectful drill music. Tracks like Slide in 2018 went crazy, racking up millions of views. But what really made him the target? The constant beef with OTF and O Block. By 2020, Duck was trying to move past the drama, signing a deal with Sony and working on Big Cloud 2. But when you got a long history of enemies, it ain't that easy to escape. August 4th, 2020, Duck was in Chicago's Gold Coast, a rich part of the city, far from the hood, broad daylights and cameras everywhere. He was shopping for his son's birthday, standing outside a luxury store when 2 cars pulled up. 4 gunmen hopped out and let off over 50 shots. Duck tried to fire back, but it was too much. He collapsed right there. He was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but was pronounced dead at 26. The city went crazy. The police, they moved quick. In 2021, the feds hit O Block with a RICO case, charging 5 members for his murder. Mo3. Melvin Noble, aka Mo3, came up in North Dallas projects, struggling, hustling, trying to make it out. But what made him different? His pain music. By 2017, he had dropped Shot Us 3.0, featuring Everybody, which got him a deal with Boozy Badass. His voice, a mix of street and soul, pain mixed with melody. By 2020, Mo3 was one of Texas' hottest artists, but with fame came enemies. November 11th, 2020, Mo3 was on I-35 in Dallas, driving alone. He noticed a car following him. Something was off. He tried getting away, but his car got blocked in traffic. Mo3 jumped out and ran, but the shooter chased him down, letting off rounds in broad daylight. One shot hit him in the head, and Mo3 died right there on the highway. He was just 28 years old. A man named Kewan Dontrell White was later arrested for the murder. The motive? Still unclear. Some say it was street beef, some say jealousy took him out. His album Shot Us Forever went crazy after his death, but the saddest part, he never got to see how big he really was. Nipsey Hussle. Born and raised in Crenshaw, South Central LA, Nipsey Hussle came up in the rolling 60s, one of the most notorious gangs in the city. But Nip, he had bigger visions. Instead of just surviving the streets, he wanted to own them. He started rapping in the early 2000s, grinding through the mixtape scene, but his breakthrough came in 2013 when he dropped Crenshaw and sold it for $100 a copy. Jay-Z bought 100 copies off rip. That move put Nipsey on another level. By 2018, he was at his peak. His debut studio album, Victory Lap, dropped and was nominated for a Grammy. But the biggest thing, he was building wealth for his own people, owning businesses, giving back to the hood. Nip was trying to change the cycle. March 31st, 2019. Broad daylight, outside the Marathon clothing store, his own business, Nip was chopping it up with some homies when Eric Holder, a dude he once knew, pulled up. They exchanged some words, and Nip allegedly called him a snitch. Minutes later, Holder came back with a gun and let off 6 shots. Nipsey tried to get up, but Holder walked back and shot him 2 more times. He was rushed to the hospital, but at 3:55 p.m., Nipsey Hussle was pronounced dead. The city went into an instant mourning. Fans, celebrities, even LAPD acknowledged his impact. Holder, arrested 2 days later, eventually sentenced to 60 years to life. Tupac Shakur. Born in 71, Pac came out grinding. No handouts, just raw talent and a mind sharper than a blade. He had that mix of poetic aggressiveness, conscious but still gangsta. His first album, Tupacalypse Now, 1991, had folks listening, but Me Against the World in 1995, now that put him on top. First rapper to have a #1 album while sitting in a cell. Ain't nobody did it like that before. At first, Pac and Biggie was tight, brothers in rap. Big even called him his mentor, but that all flipped when Pac got shot in '94 at Quad Studios in New York. Pac swore Big and Puffy had something to do with it, and that's when the war began. East Coast versus West Coast, Death Row versus Bad Boy. By '96, Pac was too deep in it. Death Row, Suge, the whole East versus West beef, he was untouchable. Or so he thought. September 7th, '96. Fresh off the Tyson fight at the MGM Grand, Pac and his crew ran up on Orlando Anderson, a Southside Crip. They stumped him out right there in the casino. Hours later, riding down Flamingo Road in the black BMW was Suge. A white Cadillac pulled up. Gunshots rang out, 14 rounds. Pac took 4 and one hit his lung bad. Pac fought for 6 days in UMC hospital, but on September 13th, '96, at the age of 25, he was gone. No tears, no last words, just silence. Police, man, that ain't solved nothing. Was it Orlando? A death row setup? The feds? nobody got locked up. Pac had so much left in the tank. Machiavelli, the Don Illuminati, dropped weeks after he died. Posthumous albums kept coming, but it ain't the same. Even in death, he's still bigger than most of the rappers alive. Over 75 million records sold, movies, books, documentaries. His impact? Unmatched. The Notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace, better known as Biggie Smalls, grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, with a single mom, but hustling was in his blood. The streets was his first come up, but rap, that was his real gift. Big had that slow, effortless flow, the type that made every bar hit different. His tape got in the hands of Puff Daddy, and in 1994, Ready or Die dropped. That album changed hip-hop. Juicy, Big Papa, One More Chance, all classics. By 97, he was working on Life After Death, moving different, but the East Coast versus West Coast beef had him in the middle of a war. March 9th, 1997, Big was in LA, pushing Life After Death, but tensions was heavy. Pac was gone, and everybody looked at Big like it was him next. That night, after a vibe party at the Peterson Automotive Museum, he hopped into a Suburban with his team. At 12:30 a.m., at a red light on Wilshire Boulevard, a black Chevy Impala rolled up. A mass shooter shot 4 shots into the car. Big took them all to the chest. They rushed him to Cheddar Sinai, but at 1:15 a.m., Biggie was pronounced dead. He was just 24 years old. The killer never caught. LAPD had suspects. Some say it was Suge Knight. Some say it was gang retaliation for Pac. Either way, the biggest rap beef ended with both kings gone. 2 weeks later, Life After Death dropped. Instant classic. Hypnotize and Mo Money Mo Problems went number 1. King Von. Davon Bennett, aka King Von, came straight out of O Block, Chicago. His story, pure survival. Von wasn't just a rapper, he was a street legend. Came up under Lil Durk and got signed to OTF. And by 2018, he dropped Crazy Story. That track, instant drill classic. Von had real talent though. He could paint a scene with his words. By 2020, he was dropping Welcome to O Block, ready to take over. But before he can see his full potential, he got caught in the lifestyle he was trying to escape. On November 6, 2020, Von was in Atlanta, chilling at Monaco Hookah Lounge with his crew. A fight broke out between OTF and Quando Rondo's people. Von stepped up swinging on Quando. Nobody thought it would go beyond fist, until Quando's homie looked him up the gun and fired. Bullets hit Von multiple times. He collapsed in the parking lot, still fighting to get up. They rushed him to Grady Memorial Hospital, but hours later, he was pronounced dead at 26. Quando's crew claimed self-defense, and Lil Tim got locked up, but later released on bond. The streets still divided on whether it was a setup or just bad timing. Von's album, Welcome to O Block, shot up the charts, and his influence still runs deep in the drill scene. Lil Jojo. Lil Jojo, real name Joseph Coleman, was a wild one. Straight out of Chicago, Inglewood to be exact. He wasn't just rapping, he was beefing, and he let it be known. Came into the game in 2012, right when drill was blowing up. Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and GBE ran the city, but JoJo, he was on the other side. He repped Brick Squad, and his music, pure disrespect. His song BDK, 300K, was a straight up diss to Chief Keef's crew. The video went viral, and suddenly, JoJo wasn't just a rapper, he was a target. September 4th, 2012. JoJo was riding his bike down 69th Street in Chicago. Broad daylight. He posted a video just hours before taunting Lil Reese, Chief Keef, and GBE. He was laughing, saying that he wasn't worried. Minutes later, a car pulled up. Shots rang out. JoJo hit the ground. and by the time the paramedics arrived, he was already gone. Dead at 18. The police didn't have nothing. The streets said that it was a retaliation hit from GBE, but nobody ever got charged. Chief Keef even laughed about it on Twitter. L.A. Capone. L.A. Capone, real name Leonard Anderson, came up in Chicago's South Side, running with 600 and O Block. Same circle as Lil Durk, Rondo No. 9, and King Von. His flow, straight fire. He had this smooth but deadly delivery, and his breakout tracks, Murder and Play for Keeps, showed that he was about to take over the drill scene. By 2013, labels were watching. He was about to sign a deal, but the streets, they caught him first. September 26, 2013. LA just left a recording studio on Stony Island Avenue. He was walking to the car, laughing, chilling with his crew. He had no idea what was coming. Suddenly, shots rang out. A masked shooter ran up, hit him multiple times in the leg and back. He was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, fighting for his life, but he lost too much blood. At just 17 years old, L.A. Capone was gone. His killers eventually caught. 3 men, Michael Mays, Sakeem Collins, and Lujane Hayes, were arrested and charged. But by then, it was already too late. Mac Miller. Malcolm James McCormick, aka Mac Miller, was a true artist. Came up in Pittsburgh, started rapping as a teenager. By 2011, he had the whole indie scene on lock with Blue Side Park. His style, pure creativity. He could split bars, he could sing, he could play instruments. Mac was different. He kept evolving from party anthems to deep, introspective music. By 2018, he just dropped Swimming, one of his best projects yet. He was in his prime. September 7th, 2018. Mac was at his home in LA, chilling alone. Nobody knew it at the time, but the drugs he had were laced with fentanyl. At 11:51 a.m., his assistant found him unresponsive. It was too late. The world was in shock. Mac was supposed to be getting better, but addiction is a silent killer. Fans, artists, and even his ex-girlfriend, Ariana Grande, mourned his loss. The DEA tracked down the dealers, and in 2021, they were sentenced for selling him fake pills. But justice didn't bring Mac back. Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD grew up in Chicago. A kid who played the piano, listened to rock, and freestyle for fun. Didn't even need a pen. Bro could go off the top for an hour straight. He started on SoundCloud, but when Lucid Dreams dropped in 2018, it was different. Platinum plaques, a $3 million deal with Interscope, and co-signs from Future, Nicki Minaj, and Cole Bennett. By 2019, Juice was running the charts. Bandit, Robbery, Hear Me Calling, dude was unstoppable. But behind the music, the drugs was catching up. December 8th, 2019. Juice was flying private from LA to Chicago with his team, but the feds were waiting. The pilot had snitched, told authorities that there were 70 pounds of weed, guns, and codeine on board. Juice panicked, and instead of getting caught with perks on him, he popped a handful. His body couldn't handle it. Right there, on the spot, he went into a seizure. Paramedics rushed in, hit him with Narcan, tried to bring him back, but at 3:14 a.m., at Advocate Christ Medical Center, it was over. Juice WRLD was dead at 21. Autopsy confirmed it. Accidental overdose on the oxycodone and codeine. His team was left shook. Nobody saw it coming like this. His posthumous album, Legends Never Die, dropped in 2020 and went #1 instantly. Wishing Well, Righteous, Smile. His voice was still everywhere. Fredo Santana. Derek Coleman, aka Fredo Santana, was one of the originators of Chicago drill. While Chief Keef was the face, Fredo was the muscle, the one everybody feared. Came up in O Block, rolling with Keith, Lil Reese, and GBE. His 2013 debut mixtape, Trappin' Ain't Dead, made it clear he was more than just Keith's homie. He had hits like Jealous and Gangbang, and by 2016, he was making his own wave. By 2017, Fredo had stepped away from the street life, focusing on music, but the lifestyle had already done its damage. January 19th, 2018, Fredo was in his Los Angeles home when he suffered a massive seizure. His liver and kidneys had been failing from years of lean addiction. The same drugs that fueled his music were now shutting his body down. When the news broke, Chicago lost one of its realest. Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and the whole drill scene paid tribute. People knew he had been struggling with addiction, but nobody thought that it would take him this soon. Lil Peep. Gustav Elijah R., aka Lil Peep, grew up in Long Island, and he got into music young. By the time he was a teen, he was making his own sound. Emo punk, hip hop, it was raw, real, and spoke to every lost soul out there. Peep started dropping music on SoundCloud, and when Come Over When You're Sober Part 1 dropped in 2017, everything changed. Songs like Awful Things and Ben's Truck blew up. He was on the edge of superstardom, but the pressure, it was eating him alive. November 15th, 2017, Peep was on tour, sitting on his tour bus in Tucson, Arizona, just hours before he was on Instagram Live, popping Zans and looking out of it. His team thought it was normal, just Peep being Peep. But when it was showtime, nobody could wake him up. They shook him, yelled his name, nothing. EMTs pulled up quick, but Peep was already gone. Dead at 21, autopsy confirmed it. Overdosed on fentanyl-laced Xanax. The worst part, somebody in his own circle may have handed him the bad pills, but no one took the blame. After his death, Come Over When You're Sober Part 2 dropped and went top 5 on Billboard. Einar Niels Gruenberg, aka Einar, was Sweden's drill prodigy. Born in Stockholm, Einar came up with style that mixed drill, trap, and grime. He wasn't trying to be like anybody else. He was creating his own lane. In 2019, his album Forced the Class broke records, and tracks like Cotton Eye Tractin' had him sitting at the top of the charts. By 2021, he was ready to conquer Europe. October 21st, 2021, Einar was outside of an apartment complex in Hammarby Hustad, Stockholm, when two masked men pulled up. They got out and started shooting, hitting him multiple times before escaping in the car. Einar's crew tried to help, but it was too late. 19 years old, gone, just as his career was reaching its peak. The investigation was quick, but the police didn't have enough to arrest anyone immediately. It was believed to be related to gang violence and ongoing beefs in the Stockholm underground scene. Huey. Born and raised in Kinloch, Missouri, Huey came up in one of the roughest areas in St. Louis. He started rapping young, freestyling in the neighborhood, but he wasn't getting noticed yet. Then came Pop Lock and Drop It in 2006, and that changed everything. The song blew up instantly, taking over radio, BET, and clubs nationwide. By 2007, it hit number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went double platinum. Huey was everywhere, performing alongside big names, getting major label backing, but after the hit, the industry wasn't showing him love. June 25th, 2020, Huey was at a friend's house in Kinloch, just chilling, but in that city, jealousy and hate are always lurking. Around 11 p.m., a car pulled up and shots fired. Huey got hit once in the chest. 10 more sprayed the scene, but he was the only one who ain't make it. He was rushed to the hospital in St. Louis, but by the time they got there, it was over. Huey was dead at 32 years old. The killers still walking free. The streets had rumors, but no one was talking. He had new music in the vault, but after he died, it never saw the light of day. Young Greatness. The name Young Greatness real name Theodore Jones, might not ring out like a superstar, but his grind was unmatched. Born and raised in New Orleans, he came up in the Magnolia Projects, the same hood that gave us Juvenile, Birdman, and Soulja Slim. But while Cash Money was running the city, Young Greatness had to carve his own lane. He started rapping in the early 2000s, but didn't get a real shot until he caught the attention of Atlanta heavyweight Quality Control. In 2015, he dropped Moolah, his breakthrough hit. The track had everybody singing along. By 2016, he was touring, hitting the charts, and making real money. But as fast as he got in, the game moved on. His buzz faded, and he had to get it out the mud again. October 29th, 2018. Young Greatness was back in his city, outside a Waffle House in New Orleans. He had moved to Houston for a fresh start, but home always calls you back. Around 1:35 a.m., shots rang out. He was hit, collapsed right outside the restaurant. The killers, gone before anyone could react. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was already gone. Dead at 34 years old, the streets had a theory. A robbery gone wrong, but the police, they wasn't sure. Eventually, 2 teens were arrested. One just 16 years old. No real motive, just senseless violence. Dollar. Roderick Anthony Burton II, aka Dollar, had all the ingredients to be a star. Born in Atlanta, he started in a rap group before going solo, catching the eye of Akon, who signed him to Convict Music. His debut single, Who the F Is That?, featuring T-Pain and Tay Dizzum in 2007, was a whole hit. Club banger, radio smash. Dollar was on his way. He had the look and the sound and the backing to go global. By 2009, he was just finishing his debut album, ready to take over. Then everything changed. May 18th, 2009. Dollar was in Los Angeles, shopping at Beverly Center Mall when he got into a confrontation. He had a beef with Aubrey Berry, a man he had past problems with in Atlanta. They spotted each other in the mall, words were exchanged, but nothing popped off inside. Then outside in the parking lot, Berry pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots. Dollar was hit in the head and back, collapsed right there. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai, but didn't make it. Dollar was gone and just 21 years old. Berry was caught at LAX later that day, trying to leave town. He claimed self-defense, saying Dollar had a history of violence. In 2010, he was acquitted of all charges. Charisma. Charles Hicks Jr., aka Charisma, wasn't your average West Coast rapper. Came out of San Jose, California, spitting bars way ahead of his time. Unlike the gangster rap dominating the West, Charisma had that playful, lyrical, boom bap style. Something fresh. In the early 90s, he linked up with Peanut Butter Wolf, forming a duo that had the underground heads buzzing. Signed to Hollywood Basic, a Disney-owned label, in 1991, they recorded a whole album together. The breakout track, Red Light Green Light, smooth flows, clever wordplay, and a sound different from everyone else at the time. But before the music could even hit the mainstream, his life was cut short. December 16th, 1993, Charisma was in East Palo Alto, California, just going about his day when everything changed. Reports say that he was sitting in his car when a man tried to rob him. Charisma, never the type to back down, resisted, and in the blink of an eye, a gun was pulled. One shot ended his life right there. He was rushed to the hospital, but there was nothing they can do. He was gone at just 20 years old. The police did arrest the suspect, but the details, foggy at best. Some say that it was a random robbery, others believe that it was something deeper. G Slim. Born in Jonesboro, G Slim came from the struggle, but he had a talent that couldn't be denied. He wasn't trying to sound like anybody else. He was raw, real, and ready to take over. He got his break with Big Boy Records, one of a few labels out of the city that was doing something big. His mixtape, Fours, Deuces and Trays hit hard, and tracks like Bug 'Em Down had the streets rocking. He wasn't at the top yet, but his buzz was growing fast. He had the right team, the right sound, and a shot at the throne. October 13th, 1996. G Slim was chilling in the east of New Orleans, just kicking it with some people he thought he trusted. It all started over a $100 bet on a video game, but it escalated, and before anyone could blink, guns were pulled. Witnesses says that he tried to fight back, but the shots rang out, 2 to the chest, and it was over. Just 21 years old, gone in an instant. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was done. He didn't make it. The police said no suspects, but the streets knew. Some say it was over money, others say it was retaliation for something that had happened earlier. Either way, the city had lost a real one. Capital Steez. Courtney Everald Dewar Jr., aka Capital Steez, came up in Brooklyn, linking with Joey Badass and performing Pro Era. His sound was raw 90s boom bop mixed with deep spiritual bars. His breakout, Survival Tactics with Joey Badass. In 2012, that track put Pro Era on the map. His mixtape, American Corruption, proved that he was one of the best lyricists of his generation, but behind the music, he was battling demons. December 23rd, 2012. Just days after tweeting "The End," Steez was seen near the rooftop of the Cinematic Music Group building in Manhattan. Around midnight, he jumped from the rooftop, ending his life at just 19 years old. The rap world was shocked. Joey Badass and the entire Pro Era crew was devastated. Steez was one of the most gifted lyricists of his time, but he had been dealing with mental struggles nobody fully understood. Lil Snoop. Lil Snoop, born Darren Ross, was a Louisiana kid with big dreams. Came from Jonesboro, where opportunity was slim, but his talent was undeniable. His flow, sharp, fast, and straight from the heart. At just 17, he caught the attention of Meek Mill, handing him a demo tape at the show. Meek called him back within 20 minutes, signing him to Dream Chasers on the spot. 2013 was his year. His mixtape, RNIC, Real Niggas in Charge, had the streets watching. Tracks like Mellow and Nobody Does It Better showcased his storytelling. He was young, hungry, and ready to take over. But the streets, they ain't let him get far. June 20th, 2013, Snoop was at an apartment in Winfield, Louisiana, chilling with a group of people. He got into an argument over a video game bet, just $100. Tensions escalated, and suddenly guns were drawn. The trigger got pulled twice. Snoop was hit in the chest. He was pronounced dead at 4:07 a.m. Only 18 years old. Authorities later arrested Tony Holden, a 36-year-old convicted felon, for murder. He turned himself in, but claimed self-defense. Pop Smoke. Bashar Baraka Jackson, aka Pop Smoke, was Brooklyn Drill's golden child. Came out of Canarsie, linked up with 808 Mello, and when Welcome to the Party dropped in 2019, it was over. That song had NYC on lock, and he followed it up with Dior and Meet the Woo 2. By 2020, he was the future. Signed to Victor Victor, working with Quavo, Travis Scott, and about to drop his debut album. The industry was watching. February 19th, 2020. Pop was standing at Hollywood Hills Airbnb. Earlier that day, he posted a pic with his address visible. That night, 4 masked men broke in, trying to rob him. Pop wasn't going out easy. He fought back, but the gunmen fired, and he took 2 shots to the torso. They rushed him to Cedars-Sinai, but it was too late. He died at 20 years old. The Killers. A 15-year-old pulled the trigger over a $2,000 Rolex. 5 suspects got locked up, but it didn't change nothing. Brooklyn lost its biggest rising star. His posthumous album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, dropped and went #1. Dior became an anthem. Jimmy Wopo. Jimmy Wopo, real name Trayvon Smart, was Pittsburgh's next big thing. His flow, straight grimy. His stories, all real. He came up from the trenches, rapping about life in the Hill District. And when Elm Street dropped in 2016, Pittsburgh had its new king. By 2018, Wopo had just signed a major label deal. He was about to blow for real. The industry was watching, but so were the streets. Not everybody wanted to see him win. June 18th, 2018, same day that XXXTentacion was killed, Wopo, riding through Pittsburgh, passenger seat of a car, when another whip pulled up alongside them. Gunshots erupted. Wopo took multiple shots before the driver lost control. The car crashed. It all happened in seconds. Paramedics pulled up fast, but it was too late. Wopo was dead at 21. The driver survived, but the killers, gone without a trace. To this day, his murder is still unsolved. No arrest, no justice. XXXTentacion. XXXTentacion came up on SoundCloud, blending emo pain with rage energy. His first big hit, Look at Me, straight chaos. By 2018, he had already dropped 17 and question mark, with hits like Sad and Moonlight. However, June 18th, 2018, X pulled up to Riva Motorsports in Deerfield Beach, Florida. As he left, a black Dodge Journey blocked his BMW. Two masked men ran up, pointing guns. They wanted his Louis Vuitton bag, with $50K in cash inside. X refused to give it up. Shots fired, and he was hit in the neck, point blank. By the time paramedics arrived, X had no pulse. Rushed to Broward Health North, but it was over. He was gone at 20 years old. Cops moved fast. 4 suspects arrested. Robert Allen flipped and snitched on the crew. By 2023, all of them were sentenced to life. His song Sad hit #1 after his death. His posthumous album Skins went platinum. X was controversial, but one thing was clear: he changed the sound of rap forever.